Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings here in Mendham. Yeah, I guess that'll work. It'll have to be good enough. Um, Appropriate music and dancing chicks and such. Anyway, so yeah, I'm totally unprepared once again. I just been, I'm working on this physics thing, and so that's also related to this idea of communicating with other people and trying to have your chance, to prove essentially that you have a better argument to, show the two arguments and put them next to each other and demonstrate that, you know, the model is broken. And, you kind of want to have that opportunity with ideas like religion. You'd like to be able to, talk to Muslims and say, come on, you can't see how all these stories are just that, stories, and you really don't think that when you die that you're going to go to some place where snakes are going to bite you all day, and that if there was a God that did that, it would be really stupid, as a punishment. Um, and punishing you for what? For not being convinced by the absence of evidence that exists. So God doesn't make a Bible that's full of stuff like, doesn't tell you about parameciums or microbes or intestinal worms, or he doesn't explain anything about reality. He just talks about demons and dragons and giants and all kinds of silly stuff. And you're just saying, well, yeah, I mean, I'm making the argument sort of, and I'm just saying there's just no way, that if they had to defend this nonsense every day or once a week, that it wouldn't wear on them, and they would say, yes, okay, I'm sorry, I'm tired of being silly, and yes, I'll try to be a real human. And because it really is, this is a huge problem. All of this diversity of understanding is not going to get us anywhere. Not even understanding basic things. You could say simple things like, deficit spending, putting liabilities on your children is like immoral and nasty and really shouldn't be done, unless it's a last resort. I mean, profiting off the selling of your child's servitude, to the debt holder. It's like renting your kid's clothes or something and expecting your kid to pay the tab in the future, mortgaging them or something. I don't know. It's just so obviously way that can't be right. That's got to be wrong. Um, you can go down a list of all these things, and you're saying, okay, we've been arguing this stuff my whole lifetime. Been watching this get argued, like abortion or something, and they just keep having the same arguments over and over, and trivial, and they never get to the real point, which is, what are you people going on about? You think it's logical to sit there and say it's okay to kill a fully grown pig, sentient organism, but you're going to get hysterical because a fetus fell apart? Doesn't even have its brain, isn't even connected to anything yet, and that's going to upset you. Well, anyway, I mean, these, they seem like such obvious win kind of subjects. Like, how could you possibly, how could we still have to have these arguments? But it's the way we have them, I think, is the problem, because it's not, it's the contest doesn't mean anything. There's no consequences to being wrong. Um, there's no the truth doesn't get appreciated, and there's so much propaganda about everything. This whole Musk guy with his stupid rocket, and you hear these bizarre stories about how this is the most incredible event in the history of mankind, and you're just like, well, wait a minute, NASA was shooting up that giant shuttle for a decade. Big heavy thing. I mean, they know how to make rockets. I'm sure if you required them to launch something that weighed as much as the shuttle, they could do it because they did it. It's just stupid. Where's the miracle here? And the test is so lame that they don't even put something real in the payload. They put a stupid car, shoot a car into space. They couldn't find anything better to shoot into space. Nobody could make like a cheap satellite that would at least be a Sputnik or something and do something interesting. I mean, it's this is retarded, and yet it's these are our heroes. Yeah, I just and then the whole Trump getting elected thing. You could just go on and on about all these just insane circumstances, and you're saying, how can it be possible? This is it's 21st century. We should be we should be doing a lot better than this in terms of upping the game, and it's instead the game seems to go. It's getting lower and lower. I mean, I got a bunch of phone calls yesterday. Like it must have been spam phone call day or something, and they're so insipid and stupid. In terms of trying to give me them bank account numbers and stuff over the phone, and and then and you're just first saying, who's doing this? I mean, this is how they make their living, calling old people and trying to fool them. I mean, it's just so disgusting. And then the fact that we as a country can't sit there and pass a law against this shit. It's just incredible. Nobody bothers. No harm. No, you're just stealing money from vulnerable old people. Who cares? That can't possibly be wrong. That can't have to be causing any negative impact. No, that's just garbage. So I'm just saying it's so you're sitting here saying, is it really true that you just can't beat idiocracy? That it will win? That the smart people aren't going to be smart enough to recognize that they can't just keep being gluttonous pigs, and they have to actually start thinking that maybe we have to do something. We can't hire it done. Whatever they're thinking. But I guess it's just the number of smart people is so tiny. That's is the real problem. Because even the people who are educated aren't very smart. I guess that's part of the problem too. The culture is just so swamps them with so much bullshit. I guess that it's so easy to get wrong turned. So I've sort of made this argument the other day in a physics video, but it's all about this. Once you get on the wrong track. So once you're doing a connect the dots thing, and once you connected a few dots wrong, it's not only that you're connected them wrong, but you used up the right dots for something else going the wrong way, and so you've kind of hurt yourself in two different ways. And you can sort of see that in the whole way that culture runs, and what it gets people thinking about and worrying about, and what it emphasizes. And it emphasizes all this silly stuff, Super Bowls and Olympics and all this stuff that doesn't mean anything. Realistically has such trivial soap opera-ish psychological rubbish. This hero worship nonsense, and they're just useless heroes, right? I mean, throwing footballs and catching them and all the other Olympic style bullshit. It's not curing cancer. It's not shooting rockets into space. It's not doing any goddamn thing worth a damn. And yet we turn them into things that should be admired. And the same thing with like money. Donald Trump inherited a big pile of money. It's not like he's some kind of self-made man, and people have this perception that somehow he earned it, and he's incredible and he's brilliant, and no, he's an idiot. He lost more money than he made. It's fact. So it's just so upside down and sick. So you're sitting here again just saying, okay, well, what's the magic here? Because we have to have a solution. There's no giving up is retarded. Saying, it's not worth fighting for, that's retarded. So that's just as stupid as being one of the stupid people, is to come up with that retarded answer. And I see it in my comment section. I guess I should scroll these images now and then just so something's happening here. Sorry, it's just nothing. I would read comments, but they're moronic. There's just so little to find that's of any value at all because everybody's stupid, pretty much. Um, they're under motivated and poorly prioritized, something like that. So it's just this idea that we really haven't created any great mechanisms. Like you could even go back to the old Greek style philosophers standing on the marble steps debating. We just don't have any infrastructure that makes that happen because rich people don't invest in it. It's not their thing, because they know they'll be the target of some of the mockery if intellectuals start talking about reality. Um, Rich people they're not gonna come off too good. Um, and especially the way most of them made their money, like inheriting it or on complete shammy, superficial crap gimmicks. Create a bookstore and then turn it into an everything store, and fail at what you intend to do, and accidentally back into um, you know a gimmick. I always picking on Google, but I mean Google is just so disgusting. I mean it was created with a whole they wrote a whole speech and a whole premise about how we have to have a non-commercial alternative. We got to get the commercialism out of the internet search. And what did they do 2 years later? They rape us all by putting ads on every single bit of the internet. They commercialized the entire internet. You know, it's just disgusting. So, so again, what's a logical, sensible, reasonable person sitting here on planet Earth, seeing all this waste and garbage, seeing civilization turn to shit, to do? you know, um, and so I've been watching some of my old videos, and I've been talking about this for 10 years, and I've had, I would say, some brilliant moments. Some of it's kind of, you know, mediocre, but a lot of quotable bits and good arguments. So I've done some work. I haven't. I'm not saying I've done my share. Not saying I've done enough yet. But it's something. It's an effort, and but it hasn't worked in this form. And then other people have taken that content and improved it. Better orchestration, let's call it. And it's better, but it still doesn't hit the magic buttons that create some sort of sense of meaning to people. Because I guess the theme isn't the theme they're looking for, which is I'm great. They want to hear how they're great, and everything they want is worth wanting, and they should have everything they want. And if the philosophy isn't saying that, then they reject it because of for no other reason, because they're glib gluttons, selfish assholes. Which just reminded me of the kid. Logic rolls the dice. Used to be a player, so to speak, in the community of people who could see the truth, and he's completely converted because he just wants to feel good, and that's all it's about. He just wants a story that's human endorsing, and he doesn't care how much he tortures to have what he wants. That's the irony of it, because he knows the truth. He knows how much waste there is in human function and human activity, and it's certainly in the animal world, and he just doesn't care. Just can't make him care, because it's more important that he feels like he's having fun, and he wants to have fun, and that's all it is. It's girls wants to have fun thing. So he's just, he's become one of the girls. No offense to girls. So anyway, I mean, it might be offensive to a girl. I'm sorry, I don't mean it in that sense. I'm just using cultural memes that are probably inappropriate. You know, it's Cyndi Lauper's fault. I mean, I like Cyndi Lauper, so you know, it wasn't one of my favorite songs though. Yeah, just because it was just another tribute to triviality, and you know, don't worry, be happy kind of bullshit. Things to live by that are just crap. No recognition of how serious the game is. You know, every day. You could just think of one thing. You could think of all the mice on Earth in one day, you know, that step into a trap. You know, either a snap trap or a glue trap, or they eat the poison. Every day. I mean, it's a preposterously huge number of little sentient creatures trying to eke out their existence, and every day they step into this horror, and then if they don't step into it, they're still going to die of, you know, mites or ticks or some other horrible circumstance. It's going to just actually choke the life out of them, choke them slow. You know, it'll happen over a period of maybe minutes, maybe hours, maybe days. And that's the thing we're part of. And to not be able to recognize that, yes, I can still jerk off to that. Okay, sure, maybe you can. Okay, maybe you can still find something in all that horror that looks like a boob, and you can enjoy it. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that, come on, if you're going to be a real human on Earth, you got to recognize that your life can't be about having fun. It's got to have a part of it where you're doing something to fix it, because it's not good enough. You shouldn't sentence anything to it, especially your own fucking kids. If you want a better world, you have to make a better world. You can't just say, I'll wait for somebody else to do it. You know, it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. And there's just so few people who recognize that that's how the real world works, that if something good is going to have to happen, then the good people have to make it happen. And they can't just wish it or hope it and you know, glibly just say, oh well, it's not my problem, I can't do anything about it, I have no role to play here. It's just all cop-outs. So I'm always conscious of this. So, you know, some people do harp on me about my priorities, and no, it's their entitlement. I think I have a plan, but whatever. You know, I mean, I have my own guidelines to where I think the reasonable path is. I'm not saying I have a direct path to getting it done correctly. I'm just saying there's my range of the right way is different than their perception of the range of the right way, and so it's okay. We can agree to disagree on that, and you can make your arguments, but I don't think anybody's made one that's, obviously they haven't persuaded me. But anyway, because I think it is more important to find out, it's not so much the composition of the message in the direct sense, in the sense that you're thinking, what will it take to convince the reasonable? It's more about what will it take to convince the unreasonable. And that ends up being a conversation about social memes and traditions and peer pressure, social institutions, the propaganda, unfortunately, of those trivial institutions. And that's where you know, we have to become masters of. We have to claim a rightful amount of that territory, to have the opportunity to you know, encourage deeper thinking. You know, I mean, it seems it seems almost inappropriate to say that there should be some requirement that human beings achieve a certain amount of intelligence to be able to participate in a civilization in the sense of constructing its character, voting, or even, buying things, or participating in any way, just because they're so their behavior is so poor that it's like the whole litter bug thing and everything else. You have to create an infrastructure to stop it. You should never even have to do anything about it. It shouldn't even be something that happens in a civilization. The people who are free to drive down the road shouldn't be people who are capable of throwing their crap out the window. Um, Almost. It should almost be that way. So it's as if people are so cartoonish in their perceptions of reality, seeking, love and, some sort of, we're meaningful and we have spirit things, and we're magical beasts, and they're just so glued to that, just a fairy tale. I mean, it's silly, Disneyland tripe. It's for little kids. It's Mickey Mouse, literally, philosophy, and that shouldn't be possible in something called a civilization, where people would be that, retarded, and it is a kind of retardation. It is just as a practical fact, to have that much misinformation, and simplistic notions of reality. Everything will be all right, and silver linings, and it's God's will, and whatever all these silly, trivial excuses for wrong to exist, defending it, with that kind of crap. So it's just not good enough. So again, I just keep running into that as the wall, is to find the angle, and to figure out how to manifest something from my limited means, in terms of creating the. I mean, it's like you're not trying to become a gladiator. You're trying to create an arena where you can gladiate, because it's no point in being a good arguer or having the argument if there's nowhere to use the argument. So it kind of comes down to this idea of creating some sort of mechanism that would encourage that. And clearly YouTube discouraged it. It seems, it might be possible that it was unintentional, but it seems like it was quite intentional. They wanted to break down any parts of the function that seemed to create a kind of format of ideas, and that would clash and be combative. And this was even before things had gotten as sloppy as they have, where they have allowed. It's funny that they seem to be so worried about creating the safe space, and yet they seem to create perfect and free license for all kinds of accounts to exist that really shouldn't even have the freedom to comment. I mean, they're obvious sock accounts. They must know they're obvious sock accounts. They have no other function. They could probably see the function is just to write shitty comments on people's videos. Now they could filter that out. They're really good at creating algorithms. I'm sure they could make an algorithm that could catch all the accounts that have no other function, than to write shitty comments. That there's no videos watched, no time watched, just a bunch of crappy comments. They don't stop it. So clearly they don't have any sincerity in whatever they're doing. Because they're really not trying to stop the conflict from taking place, because they're letting the trolls essentially have free reign of the entire place. They don't even have an effective mechanism for segregation, for saying leave me alone. There's just it's just it's a shithole. And the stupid rating system, they made excuses for why they just say yes and no, but why bother you with the yes and no when it doesn't mean anything, when you don't record who's doing it, when nobody can see who's doing it? Why have a bunch of anonymous cowards decide whether something's good or bad when we know that anonymity is not going to be protecting somebody from any legitimate purpose? It's just going to be protecting people who have illegitimate purposes. Either pumping up their ratings or somebody else attempting to pump them down. Well, anyway, I don't want to get on the subject of how poor YouTube is, but I just mean that it's clear that the idea of interactions between people was discouraged by getting rid of the response video and getting rid of the indexing based on categories. We can't categorize ourselves. We can't in any way do anything else but create friend networks or something, some other kind of bullshit like that, some sort of Facebook world. So it's not a mechanism that's it has just no tools to make it possible to have some sort of rigorous, well-structured battlefield of ideas. So again, I'm just stay with that theme. I mean, that's something I ought to just write down, is the battlefield of ideas. Because that's what I still think that's the thing that needs to be created. Now, me and Olfan tried to do that with Vlogerdome, but we really couldn't get anybody to participate. The adversarial point of view wasn't willing, as far as we could find it, to play along. So it it was more of a one side of the story, and so maybe we have to play the part of the adversary, and so that might be in the next rendition of Vlogerdome, is that we will make the other assholes argument for them and still defeat them, even though the smart people are making the argument. We'll probably make their argument better than they would, and still show it for what it is. But and I still think there can be, even for morons, entertainment value in a structure that really is trying to do something serious, which is get to the truth. What are facts that we all have to agree on to have any prospect of doing anything constructive in terms of complementary, is doing anything where we're not getting in each other's way, or not breaking each other's game, or ruining each other's civilizations. Some way to do that, to recognize the minimums that have to be, and recognize the parts that aren't so critical, and it doesn't matter if we indulge some less than sensibly held notion of liberty, or rights, So that's something that I've talked about in the past, is creating a forum for that, and I've made meager efforts to try to construct something, and just haven't gotten it there yet. But it's a project that I think requires real investment. It requires something to be 1/100th, 1/1000th of the money spent on Musk's rocket, kind of thing. A small investment, but not one that the rich are going to make, and so it has to be made by somebody else, I guess. And, or maybe we have to try harder to solicit the rich to recognize some common self-interest they might have in preserving civilization, and they might have some understanding that it's not going to be preserved by unrealistic expectations that diversity is healthy when it really isn't. And yeah, it's part of it anyway. You can't just agree to disagree about some things. I mean, I've used the analogy before, but I mean, some of you people have this expectation that somebody should live next door to like Adolf Hitler, and he should have a permit that allows him to burn Jews in his backyard, and that you're supposed to live next door to that because he has a legal permit, and say it's perfectly okay. And that's sort of what the meat eaters are expecting from vegetarians in many respects. I don't have any God notions. I don't think human beings are the only at-risk creature on this planet. I certainly would say that human beings are as respectable as any other organism here because they do have an engaged, active consciousness. But they're not the only feeling organism. They're not the only one that knows what suffering and misery is. And so, why would you think I should find it acceptable for you to be throwing something I see as just a more ignorant version of myself? Oh, I can't do math, it's, and therefore it's okay to torture it in your backyard, and I have to watch. I mean, these are really unrealistic expectations that should be just okay. That we all should say, "Oh, we can agree to disagree." I don't think so. I don't agree to disagree. I think that's fundamentally evil, and that's how I think, and it's unacceptable. And I think it would be to you if it was your relatives who were being thrown in somebody else's fire, somebody you cared about. I think you'd say that's unacceptable. I'm not just going to live with that next door. I'm not going to find a civilization that says that's okay. I'm not going to have anything but contempt for it if it says that's okay. Yeah, and this is the real stuff of what we're doing here on planet Earth, is trying to figure out how you can achieve at some sort of minimum efficiency, best efficiency. Because it is kind of a desperately bad circumstance. This is not a good game. This is Lifeboat, and there's life. There's real stakes at stake. Suffering is what we're playing with. That's what the cards are made out of, and people are just sitting around glibly flipping their cards and playing the game, and they're just not concerned that, oh yeah, well, I lost a big pile of suffering there, so what? No, it's not a so what. It has to be accounted for, and people have to be accountable. So that's another big word in this whole battlefield of ideas, is accountability for what you say or what you defend. And there's just so little of that. What you do. So anyway, yeah, it's a problem to keep pondering. I can't see myself resorting to being a Facebook personality or something. I think there's probably a better way to do this. Something separate from that tackiness. Doing something that doesn't require product endorsement, other kinds of commercial bullshit to sustain itself. But yeah, it's something that needs to get done before this can go to its next level, whatever that might be. Can't get there from here because there's no platform, there's no bridge, there's no mechanism where good argument means something. And it's really becoming just a world of propaganda. I mean, I've pointed this out before, but everybody noticed. I mean, you should be able to notice this, that news isn't news anymore. News is for your club. It's club news. It's the right-wing money whores and religious kooks have their station, and then we're more new age. We love the word love, and we love words like friendly. So that whatever that club is, the kind of, I don't know, whatever gay poofty kind of club, and so they're all just clubs propagandizing, and it doesn't have anything to do with the truth. They all present the evidence in their distorted manner, incomplete, incredibly incomplete. I mean, it's not even worth reading a news story anymore because there's just no details in any of it. Just a bunch of, somebody said 59 people were killed. Yeah, it was just a guy on the street. That was his guess. Yeah. And that's somebody tweeted it. So just forget it. It's horrible. So I guess that's enough. Just lamenting. Well, I should be lamenting it more substantially. That I got to do better, and got to find a mechanism to make it better. Some of this technology is good. I mean, I can do some better things. But edited videos are edited videos. I mean, documentaries are documentaries. And so again, it's this idea that I am probably not the best salesman because I keep wanting to get to the meat of the subject. And I guess for a lot of people, you have to, just an inch at a time. You have to migrate them from their bullshit. That's not one of my strong points. So, this might not be a job for me. But if no one else is going to do it, then I'm stuck with it. I'm stuck thinking it's something I got to try to work on anyway. But yeah, it's, like I said, the argument has been made, I think, and it's just being able to make it in the proper platform where you can just show you can win. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. Kind of, we need a mechanism where deserve has something to do with it. That's another concept that's just so important. This idea of deserve, is what every person should say. Yes, if I have a choice between deserve not having anything to do with it and deserve having something to do with it, yes, I'm always going to want that deserve thing to matter. I mean, it's just, and there'll be people who will obstinately just keep fighting against the notion that that's a good idea because they're so entrenched in their own privilege or in their own, stolen advantages or however, their own cheating. That they just, no, you can't have, no, deserve is bad because that doesn't allow the cheats that I'm benefiting from or something like that. That's just, that's lousy. But that's a really big, important word, in terms of somebody who believes in anything reasonable in terms of civilization or doing things right or efficiency. Deserve having something to do with it is, well, I've said it before, that's reward and punishment. Reward and punishment doesn't mean anything if deserve doesn't have something to do with it. If you're punishing the winners and rewarding the losers, that's not going to work. It just breaks the whole function of the system and the whole reason why we feel, and it just, we've got to think deserve should have something to do with it. And yeah, so I've got to work on that and such. So anyway, yeah, that's enough. So sorry, should have more prepared and made a video on a subject, perhaps. I don't know. This is a subject. It's just not the subject. Stiff neck. Anyway, yeah, yeah, I don't know, whatever. I'm tired. I'm doing this shit for a long time. So anyway, yeah, that's enough of a video. So I hope to get more organized. I got little pieces of it I'm starting to put together. Get more of a format and just try to find a hammer and start whacking the mole or whatever I'm supposed to whack, and try to figure out how to do it in a more constructive way. I mean, being fair, I've been somewhat constructive, I think. So anyway, yes, just years of it, years and years and years. Eesh. Okay, anyway, till next time. I don't think there's any news. Everything's kind of dead, it's just nothing exciting happened. I did see Anaconavod made a video. It was kind of funny. It was only a minute long, and he was in Calcutta and basically talking about how, well, none of these people that call this place a shithole have actually been to this shithole. And he's sitting there in this obscene noise, and the video showing every building is covered in crud. Every sign is like rusting and cruddy. The street is the cleanest thing in the video. I mean, everything looks filthy. I mean, just filthy. And just horns honking, beep beeps, just constant noise, and you're just saying, oh, you just kill yourself in 3 minutes of not being able to get out of that noise would just kill me. I'd have to die. Cut the ears off or something. There's no way. But it's just so, it's just so ironic that he's so charmed by, it's like he's like a cat. It's like any cardboard box will do. I'll look at any one of them. Oh yes, I love cardboard boxes. I mean, I don't understand people like that. I mean, he would actually go into one of those shops and buy something and eat it. Just insanity. Anyway, just saying. Anyway, it's just I just can't. So it's just part of the problem is the distance. People are so far apart. The brain function is so inverted and different. Places I would consider, yes, that would be absolute hell. A day sitting on that street would be hell. And this guy thinks it's charming as fuck. Just amazing. Anyway. Big problem. It's a big problem in this struggle of living. Is people are nuts. It's bad.